days. I'll be leading the first half of the presentation. I'm the sales manager for WIN-911, and then Steven is our product manager. So he'll be going through a live demo and getting more into some of the technical aspects of this new Direct Connect for specifically InTouch. So Steve, if you want to go to the first slide. So one of the things that we always try and do here at WIN-911 is really try and gauge the market for the importance of alarm notification. We've had a great year thus far and have seen a big adoption of WIN-911 Pro and also WIN-911 Enterprise coming down the pipe for Wonderware InTouch. So one of the things that ARC did for us and put an article about on is specifically talking about alarm notification for the industrial IoT age. Some of the points were alarm notification systems do not receive the attention and resources they deserve. And then alarm notification is emerging as a strategic component of IT/OT convergence, which was a quote that we pulled from Craig Resnick. So we're definitely seeing a lot of adoption in different industrial automation environments across the board, whether it be an oil and gas application, food and beverage, and further into the pharmaceutical realm. And Steve, you can go to the next slide. So some of the value propositions that WIN-911 really brings to the table is helping customers have better oversight at their facility. A lot of customers now run 24/7 operations on the production side. So WIN-911 is a great application to implement to not only get alarms to everyone throughout your plant in that specific and crucial amount of time, but it also lets you route alarms to the right people and also deliver notification beyond the control room. So if you have individuals, maybe engineers or operators that go home at night and still want those eyes and ears to be able to get those alarms, WIN-911 gives you the ability to receive SMS, and you can see all these different notifications here on the bottom that Stephen will specifically speak to as we get more into this presentation. So customer success, we've been very blessed to obviously have installations in manufacturing, food and beverage, and also oil and gas. Some of those companies that we can specifically speak to that we've done projects with and have a very strong relationship with are Chevron, Marathon Oil, Exxon, Mobil. A lot of these companies are out of Houston, so we're continuously working with them to figure out solutions that are going to benefit their staff and further improve their plant operations. Our biggest customer base served is water wastewater. You can practically find us in any small municipality or maybe even a large water or wastewater treatment plant in New York City, Houston, Dallas, city off of Los Angeles uses us. Life sciences has also been another big customer segment that we're starting to have a lot of penetration in. Bigger companies like a Pfizer and an Amgen are currently using our products in lab environments and safety environments. And then furthermore, data centers are also starting to use us. We have a couple of applications with Google and also Microsoft. And some of these other specific ones that you might not necessarily think of, but WIN-911 can really be used anywhere that's using a SCADA or an HMI system, or specifically a system that supports an OPC type protocol that we can pull data from. So you can find us in airports, aerospace and defense, and laboratories and research like a Fermilab or a NASA.
So this is Steven. I'm going to take over from here, so thanks, Keith. So this webinar specifically today is so we can introduce our new InTouch data source for our enterprise product. So we rebuilt our InTouch data source from the ground up, and so we're using different technologies for this. So now with this InTouch Direct Connect, we're using something called the Alarm Toolkit in combination with SweetLink, whereas before we were using something called the Idea Toolkit. So the Alarm Toolkit and SweetLink give us much more flexibility than the IDEA Toolkit. And we'll talk more about that here in just a moment. So what we want to show here is our new InTouch data source is able to talk to Window Viewer, and once it gets that data into the data source, what we're going to do with it is we're going to send it to our dispatcher and or our reporting module. The dispatcher is the piece that's going to handle all the escalation. It's where you create your call-out list. It's where you create your escalation rules. When should you be calling people and so on. Our reporting module is the piece that handles alarm requests, data requests, and so on. And once we have that information in the dispatcher, it's going to determine who needs to be notified, and it's going to send it out to one of our notifiers. So starting from the top here, our enterprise product supports voice. And when I say voice, what I mean is we make phone calls using voice over IP. We work or function as an SIP or SIP soft phone. So as long as your voice over IP server supports SIP, then we can use that server. We still support TAPI, TAPI modems. So those are analog modems that you can connect to your existing telephone lines. And for voice, we've put out these new premium voices that are not just English anymore. So if you have an application where you need a foreign language, we can accommodate those now with the enterprise product. So email is a two-way notification method. You're able to now send your messages out and send replies back in. We can also send emails out to your cell phone as a text message, and you can respond to those text messages to acknowledge alarms as well. And if you want to do native SMS, we do have an SMS notifier that's using the existing modems that we've sold over the years, plus some new modems that Multitech put out a couple of years ago. And one of those new modems is an Ethernet-based modem, meaning instead of physically attaching the modem to your machine, you can plug that guy into your network, and WIN-911 can access the modem over the network, which is great for virtual environments where it's becoming increasingly difficult to attach hardware to your box. And last, Mobile 911, that's our smartphone app. It runs on Android, iOS devices. It's the quickest notifier. It's my favorite one. So we're able to send notifications to your phone. You can open the app, see the alarm, and take an action right from your mobile app. So the integration for our InTouch connection has changed quite a bit from the version 7 connection. And the number one thing that is different, I would say, is that we're now able to do or create what we call subscriptions, which are essentially a filter. So what that means is we can filter alarms into WIN-911 rather than importing a list of tags. So in the past, you were forced to do a DB dump import, choose which tags you wanted to monitor, and then if you ever needed to change that, you needed to run the import again or manually put some tags in. So we don't especially like doing it that way. So what we're able to do now is do subscriptions. And so in this example on my right side, you can see I can filter on 3 different criteria. The first thing being the tag name. So I can create what I call, you could do it as a wildcard filter on tag name, meaning it was tag name and I just want every tag name with the word tank in it. I could create a wildcard filter for that. If it's a group, you can create a filter for groups. That's what I'm doing in my example on the right. I'm saying give me all tags that belong to a specific group called freshwater tanks. And I don't care what the priority is, so I've got all priorities selected there. And so the last thing you can filter on is priority. You can choose a priority range. You can choose a specific priority. Maybe you just want every single alarm that is priority 1 or some priority range. And so once you bring these alarms in with this filter, you can attach what we call an alarm label to those alarms. So every alarm that matches this filter that comes into WIN-911 will be attached, will wear this freshwater alarms label. And you can use that for dynamic escalation, and I'm going to show you specifically how that's done in just a moment. So some of the advantages of the new connection are your alarm configuration stays in InTouch. You don't need to maintain two separate alarm lists. So your alarm list is in InTouch where it should be and not in WIN-911. You can use these filters to bring all your alarms in. When you add a new alarm into InTouch, WIN-911 will automatically receive the alarm, assuming that alarm matches your filter criteria. So again, I'm showing a specific group filter. So if you create new alarms in InTouch, make sure it matches your group name, and WIN-911 will automatically get it. And of course, we still support acknowledgments. Otherwise, it really wouldn't be a direct connect. So that's that's great. Some of the enhancements over version 7. So here's another big change. We can now connect to multiple InTouch applications. They can be local applications or remote applications. So in the past, version 7 was a 1-to-1 ratio with InTouch. So if you wanted to run it, you had to run it on the same box as Window Viewer. Now you don't even have to do that. You can run it on a separate machine from InTouch altogether, and you can connect over your network. The license that we're shipping with the product supports a single connection to an InTouch application. If you want to add more connections, that is something that can be purchased directly from us or your distributor. We do have a new improved scheduling engine. So, the new engine it's very similar to what you see in something like Outlook or even Google Calendar, where you can create appointments, or which is what we call it when you're on schedule. And we give you the tools to create shift schedules, delete appointments for holiday schedules, and so on. So you can have everyone using the same schedule. You can have everyone with their own independent schedule. And again, alarm subscriptions, we just talked about that. So alarm subscriptions, again, give you the ability to do dynamic alarming. So again, when you add your alarms to InTouch, you don't need to change WIN-911's configuration if you set up your filters in a way that will always bring your alarms in. The configuration is now runtime all the time. So that means as soon as you make a change in WIN-911, it's instant. So you hit the save button and it's ready to go. So there's no more restarting the configurator, is what you always had to do before. You had to save and then not restarting the configurator, save the configurator, restart scan alarm, so you have to restart the runtime. You don't have to do that anymore. Automatic reconnect. Here was another sore spot with the version 7 product. If you lost your connection to Window Viewer, you had to restart WIN-911 to make it reconnect. That's not the case anymore. If we do lose our connection, we will automatically attempt to reconnect indefinitely. So if you do lose, if Window Viewer goes down, if your network link goes down, we will just keep trying to reconnect until we can. We also have a new tag import utility, so a lot more flexibility with the import tool, and I will show you that in a moment. And of course, one of the biggest things in enterprise is our new escalation engine. So we have what we call tactics. A tactic is essentially it's a call-out list. In this case, what we've done is we've created workflows that give you a drag and drop interface, meaning you just drag what we call notification blocks into your tactic workspace, and then you select who you want to notify with that block. We also have what we are calling decision blocks. A decision block lets you make a decision about an alarm depending on certain criteria. In this case, on the example on the left, I've got a severity decision block. So I'm saying if the severity is greater than 750, let me notify my operators and managers. And if it's less than that, let's wait 10 minutes for the alarm to clear. And if it hasn't cleared, let's go ahead and notify the operators. So that's how a call-out list works in enterprise. We also have what we call basic tactics, which is a simple call-out list, which is very, very similar what you've seen in version 7 in your group call-out list. So once you create these tactics, you need to tell WIN-911 when to fire them off. So you do that with a strategy. So a strategy is a collection of rules or conditions and actions of what WIN-911 should do. So in this case, I've got my first condition says when there's a new event or initial event, let's start a tactic, and that tactic is called assembly operators. Let's assume that tactic on the left is assembly operators tactic, and so it'll run through there. Anytime the alarm changes state, I will re-notify the people that have been notified, and after 20 minutes, I will start another tactic that would say that one says notify all, so it would notify everyone in the system. And once the alarm becomes terminal, which means it's inactive and acknowledged, I would go ahead and just stop notifying altogether. These are all customizable, so you can choose whatever you want, and you can, combined with tactics and strategies, you can do almost any escalation that you would want to do. So a lot more flexibility over the version 7 call-out list. So now what I want to do is I'm just to run through the different notifiers quickly, starting off with our mobile 911 app. So here you can see it running on an iPhone. We're delivering these notifications to your mobile devices with push notifications. Push notification appears on your phone much like a text message would, so you can see that here. Once you get that push notification, it's basically telling you, hey, there's a new event. Let's open the app. So if you tap those push notifications, it's going to launch the app, and then you can see all your alarms listed in a list. Once you see the alarm you're interested in, you just tap on it. It opens up and it shows you the details of the alarm. Now these details are entirely customizable. It doesn't need to be text, but we can make it appear any way you like. And you can see in the bottom left there's an act button. So what we want to do, tap that act button, put in our code, and it will send it back to WIN-911, and it will get acknowledged pretty much instantaneously. You can see at the bottom line there it says act by Steve Mobile 911. That means everyone else in the system is going to know that Steve acted this alarm with his mobile 911 connection. So that's mobile 911. So this is our text messaging. Again, I did mention that we are supporting a new type of modem, the Ethernet IP modem. We still support serial modems just like we did, or USB modems. You can see a picture of that new modem down there on the bottom. You can see there's an Ethernet port and a serial port on it. So you're able to connect to these modems over your network rather than physically attaching them to your machine. So we can see here on the phone on the right, we're getting a text message. We open that guy up. You can see it's got a ticket number and the alarm details there, entirely customizable again. So we want to act that alarm. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the ticket number, pound, and then a password. You don't have to have a password if you don't want. It's just this one is configured with one, and then you can put an alarm comment. So in this example, we're saying I'm 5 minutes away from the alarm, from being able to take an action. So I'll send that in. The alarm will get acknowledged in WIN-911, and then everyone else in the system that needed to hear about this alarm is going to get notification saying that Steve's going to take care of it in 5 minutes. So that's text message, voice calls. So earlier I mentioned we now support voice over IP. Again, if you support SIP, then if your server supports SIP, then we can use it. We're still supporting TAPI modems as well, which are the analog modems. You can see a picture of one right there at the bottom. The way voice is working in enterprise is, I mean, it's very similar to version 7. I mean, you're going to get a phone call. It's going to answer the phone. You answer the phone. It's going to say, hello, Stephen, this is WIN-911. Put in your authorization code. Put that in. And then it'll announce the alarm messages that you have. And after each message, it'll ask you to take an action. So in this case, I want to act this alarm. So I'm going to push number 2. I'm going to say enter my code if I had configured this connection with the code, and it will acknowledge the alarm and hang up the phone. So that is our voice call. And so again, very similar to the old notification method in version 7, but it's a bit different. It's improved. We fixed a lot of holes that we had in version 7, so we're pretty happy with our new voice notification method. So last is email. We support SMTP, POP3, and IMAP. It's a two-way notification. You can see our email is in HTML, so you can format it any way you like. So this just on its own looks a lot nicer than just plain text, which you can also do. So here we've got an alarm. You can see now it's gone inactive. And then I'm going to reply to it. In this case, I need to put a password in, which is the 123. I'm going to put my comment in. So what you want to do is write comment : and then your comment. If you don't have to have an authorization code here either. You can just, if you like, you can just hit the reply button and send it in, and we'll be able to act that alarm for you. So we'll send that in. You'll see it'll get acknowledged, and it will send it back to you and everyone else in the system. And that's it for the notifier. So now what I want to do is I want to run through a quick product demonstration of the InTouch data source. And again, if you have any questions as we go along, please put them in the chat box and we can get to them at the end of it. So let's just go straight into the WIN-911 configuration. This is the GUI. So you notice it's in a web browser, and you can access this anywhere within your network. It is secured with Windows authentication, so when you go to this URL or the GUI, you do need to put in a Windows username and password to be able to access it. If you don't have that, then you won't be able to change your configuration at all. So what I want to do is I'm going to jump into context real quick just to show you how you configure a connection. So I've got myself entered in here. It's every notifier workspace or configuration screen is going to look very similar to this. Obviously, it's going to be relevant to the notification method. In this case, I need to give it a name. I can put a description in there, an email address. I need to choose a schedule. Let me go into edit mode so you can see it a little bit better. Choose a schedule. I can choose whether it's a standard email or that texting email that I mentioned earlier. But what I wanted to highlight here is roles. So you can see that I have a role called freshwater operators. Now, the purpose of using roles is to be able to use those in your escalation, in your tactics, which you kind of saw a glimpse of earlier. So I can attach as many roles to this person as I like. So in this case, I'm just going to attach freshwater operators. And if I created other connections in my system, I can also give them the same role. And so when I say notify my freshwater operators, it means notify everyone that wears this role. And the great thing about this is when you build your escalation, you don't have to edit it. After you, if someone leaves the company or you add someone to the company, you don't need to edit your escalation. You just need to create them and assign them the proper role, and they'll be inserted into your escalation automatically. So these are the details on the main screen here. You can choose things. Again, this is what all the notifiers will be very similar, just the relevant information for the notification method. You'll be able to choose a format, a report format, the ACK options. I've got my guide set on ACK on any reply. Alarm request options, you can limit which alarms this person can see. In the same way that I can group connections together, I can group alarms together. And so what that means is if this guy only needs to know about freshwater alarms, I can say whenever he does an alarm request of any kind, only give him freshwater alarms back, because I don't want him to see alarms from, I don't know, wastewater or whatever it may be. So it's a good way to isolate those connections to only what they need to be seen. And then utilizers, you can see where this is used elsewhere in the software. So again, all the other notifiers very similar, and we don't need to go through each one. But what I will mention real quick, I jumped over to mobile, is that formats for each one of these notifiers are customizable, and we are using something called XSL, which is very similar to XML. If you have a format need, just let us know and we'll build that format for you. And again, we can make it look pretty much any way you want. So from there, I'm going to jump over to notification. And we talked about tactics. This is where you configure those tactics. I've created a pretty big tactic here that I'm going to show you. Let's go into edit mode. Try to zoom out so you guys can see it. So, hope that's not too small. What we've got is we've got an entry point up here, which is indicated by the green dot. And the first thing we're going to hit is what we call a decision block, and it's going to say, hey, this is an alarm, but is it a freshwater alarm? If it is, let's come down here. Let's check the severity. Is it high severity? If it is, let's notify the freshwater operators and the managers. If it's not, then let's just notify the operators. If it's not a freshwater alarm, I can nest another decision block to my left. It's going to check to see if it's a wastewater alarm. Go through the same kind of severity block here, saying is it high severity? If it is, notify both my operators and managers. If it's not, just notify my operators. If it doesn't match either one of those, then let's just notify the managers, because someone needs to hear about that alarm. So this is the tactic workspace. It's literally drag and drop. You take a block in, you put it in there, you configure it, choose who you want to be notified. So if I didn't want to use my notify all blocks where I'm using those roles, I can choose a specific person if I wanted, do it like that. But again, the great thing about using the roles and using the labels is that there is nobody's name in here. And so your escalation is dynamic. As you add people, remove people from your system, you don't need to change this if you're attaching them to the correct role and you're attaching your alarms to the correct label. So I'm going to exit out of this guy. So that is a tactic. So what we'll do now is we'll jump over to, actually I wanted to show you guys this real quick, the basic tactic. That's why I mentioned that earlier. It's a simple call out list just like before. In version 7, you can select people, put them in a list, just put them in any order you want. There's no dynamic escalation here. It's like you're literally putting people in a list, removing them from the list, putting them in the particular order that you want them to be notified. So that is a basic tactic. So you can use either basic or advanced tactics when you're setting up your WIN-911 system. So strategies, again, these are the rules that determine which tactic to run when you get an alarm. So I've got this strategy called freshwater and wastewater alarms. So what it's saying is when I get an initial event, let's start a tactic, which is that giant one we just saw. So it's going to run through there, determine who needs to be notified, and notify them. Anytime the alarm state changes, we'll re-notify people that had been notified. If you hadn't been notified, then obviously we won't re-notify you. Upon repeating timer, that means every 20 minutes, if the alarm is still active, let's re-notify. And then when the alarm becomes terminal, which is inactive and act, then we'll stop notifying altogether, because we'll stop the strategy. You can change these too. So I can say alarm becomes acknowledged, stop the strategy, and there are a whole different list of conditions here around the alarm state, condition, timers, like if you want to do something after 20 minutes one time, or you want to do the repeating timer like I'm doing, so that you can do a whole lot of things right here in your strategy that you can't do in your tactic. So I'm going to change this guy. Well, I'm just going to exit out because I like the way I have my rules set. So that's the strategy. So now finally we're to InTouch, which is what we want to talk about. So real quick, I've just got a very, very simple application running with 2 tags. This tag is attached to a group in InTouch called Freshwater. So if I set him off, so let's do a high alarm on this guy, or do high alarm there. You can see his group is freshwater. If I set this guy off, his group is wastewater. So what I've done is I've created some subscriptions or filters. So I've got one for freshwater alarms, and I'm filtering that particular group called freshwater. I'm attaching a label to it called freshwater. So every alarm that comes in here, it's going to be attached to a label called freshwater. Then well, I'll get to the strategy part in just a moment. So I'm creating that subscription, And I've also created a wastewater subscription that's doing the same thing just with wastewater. So this subscription will get that freshwater alarm. This one will get the wastewater alarm. So that is how you can make as many subscriptions as you want. This all alarms filter is built in, so this would catch everything. But I'm gonna show you these freshwater and wastewater subscriptions. So once you create your subscriptions, you can create the connection to your particular application. Earlier I did say that you can connect to multiple InTouch applications, and we are doing that through a network connection. So when you want to connect to a new InTouch app, all you need to know is where it's located on your network. In this case, it's on the same machine, so I've got localhost written in there. If it was a remote machine, you will need to have the IP address or the host name to put in here. You can browse for that on the right. This name is just a friendly name. You can type anything you like in there. Nothing special about that. So that's all you need to connect to an InTouch application. We've got watchdogs just as before. In this case, I've got one set up watching the minute timer. So if I lose my connection to InTouch, yeah, we will try to reconnect automatically, but I want to let people know that we did lose our connection. So I'm creating this alarm, and I'm going to send that out to whoever needs to know about the connection status so they can take the appropriate action. So those are watchdogs. You can create as many as you like if maybe you want to monitor a PLC or whatever it may be. All right, subscription routes. So this is where you use those subscriptions I just made. So I've got two routes in here. And a route is a way for me to take that subscription and assign it to a strategy. So I've got this freshwater alarms filter, and I'm going to send that to my freshwater and wastewater alarm strategy, which is the strategy that we just looked at. And that, if you remember, that's going to trigger off that giant tactic I showed you, and it's going to go through that tactic, determine that it is a freshwater alarm, and I do need to notify my freshwater operators, which my email connection I showed you earlier, he is a freshwater operator, so he's going to be the one receiving those notifications. If I get a wastewater alarm, it's going to go through the same thing, and it's going to determine it's a wastewater alarm and notify wastewater operators, which I don't have any configured, so no one will get a notification for that. So this is how you take those subscriptions you made, and we put them there so you can use these subscriptions over and over again with as many applications you want to put into your WIN-911 system. So this is how you use those. And you can put again, you can have as many as you want, and you just put them in the order that you want them to be evaluated. So that's the subscription routes. So let's jump into the tags. So we're really excited about the subscriptions, but I know a lot of people are still going to want to do tags, and so we didn't want to take that away from you. So you can still create InTouch tags in WIN-911. You can do it manually like this. Put in some tag name, then put in the actual tag name, and you attach it to your application you want to attach it to. You can put labels on individual alarms, and then you go over to your alarm tab, and you can choose which alarms on this tag that you actually care about. So in this case, it's a discrete tag, so I can only do discrete alarms. What's great about this is if you don't like the alarm comment that's in InTouch, you can come and make your own comment. So custom comment that isn't in InTouch. So you can make it say anything you like within WIN-911 without having to change your window viewer or your InTouch application configuration. So that's what this guy is about, but I don't expect anyone to come through and manually add dozens or hundreds of tags. So we do have this import utility. So we're trying to tell you use subscriptions, it's easier. So what we're going to do now is you choose which application you have configured that you want to import to. You hit the upload button, you choose your CSV file just like before. It's going to find 28 tags in there. And we'll go to the next screen, and it's going to list all these tags out. But what's interesting about this is that just because you have tags in there doesn't mean that there are alarms on them. So you can see these are the only tags that have alarms on them under this column. Now, why would I put these tags in here if they don't have alarms? Because this is how you get tags into your reports. So if you want to build a report, you need to bring these tags in so you can build those reports. But you can also, like I showed you just a moment ago, use this for alarming as well. So I'm going to select these three. Let's say I want to put a label on them. So let's say, I don't know, let's just say they're building 2 alarms. And then I add them over to my right, and they'll go to the right, and they'll wear the label. If I want to add more with different labels, I can do that. I don't want to do that now, so I'm going to go to next. So now, remember it showed you those tags have alarms on them. So now I can choose which alarms I actually care about. So these have a high level and a low level, high, and a high level. So we would list out all of the alarms that are on those tags. So let's say I only wanted this high level alarm and I didn't want the deviation alarms or whatever else would be configured on there. I can select just those alarms that I care about and add them over to the right. Then here's where you choose your strategy. So what's going to handle the escalation for it? Where is it going to send? What tactics are going to run for it? I don't actually want to import these because these are from a different application. I'm not running this application, so I can't actually connect to those tags, so there's no point in bringing them in. These are tags from the Wonderware demo, so I'm sure you guys are familiar with those. So I'm not going to import those. What I want to do is just let's trigger off an alarm, and we can see how it works. So, well, we already triggered some off, so we can see them here. So this is our log viewer. So you can see I've got 2 alarms over here in InTouch, and they're both over here in my log viewer. This is the new log viewer for WIN-911. It updates automatically. It also shows you details about notifications. So earlier I said this is going to bring in wastewater alarms and attach a label to it. This is going to bring freshwater alarms and attach a label to it. So I can see that has happened here. And you can see we're attaching in front of the alarm point the name of the filter that brought it in. So you can see those are lining up. So I mentioned that there are no wastewater operators in my system. So if I click on this guy, I can go to notification, and there are no notifications because there are no wastewater operator connections in my system. But if I go over to my freshwater alarm, I can see that an email was sent because I am wearing that freshwater label. So that is how the escalation is going to work. You can see more details about the escalation in any of these tabs, like who's acknowledged, which strategy triggers have been run, how did it go through the tactic, and so on. It's mostly for diagnostic purposes if you're trying to figure out how your strategy and tactic are working together. So now that I've triggered this freshwater alarm, I can see that's an email, so I'm going to go over to my email, and I can see it here. So this is what it's going to look like. Again, you can make this look however you want. This is HTML, but if I want it to be plain text, I can make it look that way too. I've set this guy up so I can do just a reply, so I'm going to click reply, hit send. I don't have to do anything else. It's going to send it out. WIN-911 is going to check for new email on a pull rate of 1 minute. So every minute it's going to check for new alarms, and once it gets that alarm app request, it will act the alarm, and you'll be able to see it show up first in InTouch, and then it will show up over in the log viewer. So that is, I guess I would say, the gist of how our new InTouch data source is working. So I guess we're going to go ahead and return to the PowerPoint, and we can talk about how you can upgrade from version 7 to the enterprise product if you so choose. So let's go, let's see, in a virtual machine, let me minimize this guy. I wanted to wait till it came through, but don't want to wait here for a minute for it to come in. So let's minimize that guy. And so upgrading. So obviously, if you have a new installation coming along, we would prefer you to use the enterprise product over the version 7 product, so you can take advantage of the new features there. As far as migration utility, we don't currently offer one. We are planning one for the first half of the next year. Just so we're clear on the migration utility, a lot of things will be different. I mean, obviously, a version 7 configuration is going to differ from the enterprise configuration quite a bit. So number one being subscriptions. There are no subscriptions in version 7. And so there's no way to bring that stuff over. But there are tags, so we can bring tags in. We can bring some contact details, which, again, those will be different as well. So it won't be an exact one-to-one migration, but we'll do the best we can to make it as easy as possible. But again, in a lot of cases, it might be, for as far as escalation goes, it might be best to just rebuild a whole new configuration so you can fully take advantage of the enterprise features. If you just want to upgrade from Pro to Enterprise in your current, on your software maintenance plan, you can upgrade it, just a difference in the price. So Pro is currently $26.95, Enterprise is $39.95. So if you wanted to upgrade, you should pay the difference. So it would be $1,300 to upgrade. And if you're on Basic and or Light or whatever it may be, the price obviously the difference would be greater. So I guess with that, let's take some questions, Keith. So if you want to read off some questions, we'll answer them.
Hey, this comes from Lee. He wants to see if you can go back to your demo to show that the email alert came through.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, it looks like it didn't come through. I took this up. Just let's see, which one was it? It was this guy. So the acknowledgement didn't come through because there might be something going on with my demo. But let's say I want to acknowledge it. In Akim here, and you'll see it get act there, and it will update over here.
Okay.
There just might be something going on with my internet connection through my virtual machine or something, and the email's not working perfectly. But
okay.
But once it did get acknowledged, you would see it in here. So in this case, it's showing the log viewer acted. If it was email, you would see that the email acknowledged it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? It might have been, let's return these guys down here. And so what we'll do is let's just go up, wait for them to come in, and we'll try this again. So here's my new alarm. And again, just send a reply through, and we'll go to the next question, but we'll come back to this and we can show you how it works in just a minute.
This comes from Jesus. Can you do an import of subscriptions?
No, so the subscriptions are entirely new. So if you mean like support, do an import based off a subscription like import tags, no, there's no way to do that. But I will say that the import utility has different columns, and actually it'd probably be best to just show you that. Let's see. When you do imports, you have these columns in here, and these are all filterable. So when you're back on your first screen and you're trying to, let's say you had way more alarms than this, you can use these filter options to filter your alarm list down however you like. But as far as importing subscriptions from a, like, let's say version 7, that the idea of subscriptions didn't exist then, so there's no way to bring those in. So.
Okay, and I just answered a quick poll question so the audience can answer real quick. We have another question. Let me see. Is there an upgrade path to this from version 7, which I believe you kind of covered? If you want to go back over that one a little bit.
Again, there's we're planning for a utility next year. The migration won't be one-to-one, but there will be an upgrade path of some kind to help. But let's say you have hundreds of connections or contacts you need to bring in. No one wants to put those in 100 more contacts. So we want to have that utility bring as much information as that's relevant to enterprise into the version 7 product.
Okay. And Jesus asked a follow-up question to the one where he talked about importing subscriptions. He says,
Yeah.
then say I have a project where I have multiple alarms to import, let's just say a new plant, for example. Then how do you do that in a fast manner?
How do you import tags in a fast manner?
Yeah, like multiple alarms.
Well, I mean, so if you're using the import utility, you're selecting. You can select as many tags as you want here, and then you just bring them over. I mean, I assume this is what he means, and then you choose the labels you want to attach to those guys, and then you go to the next screen, choose which alarms you want. Again, these alarms there were only 3 alarms configured in this InTouch application in this DB dump, but this would normally be filled with alarms here, and you're just selecting which alarms you care about, and then you're moving them over and importing them. So once you hit the next screen, it will import that. So if I hit next right now, it'll import that screen into the system. So what that means is these are going to come in as tags, and if they had alarms on them, they'll come ahead of a subscription. So if you have a tag listed in here and it comes into alarm, it's going to take priority over any alarm, the same alarm if it would have come in from a subscription. But that's how you import your tags. And okay. I mean, it's a process. So.
In subscription filters, what InTouch fields are being analyzed for that filter?
So it's the tag name, the group name, and the priority field. So if you look in here, we're literally looking at this group column, we're looking at this name column, and priority column. So these 3. So that's how we're determined. That's what the subscription is able to look at. So it's able to bring alarms based on those 3 different pieces of information.
Okay. When acknowledging an alarm from the new enterprise product, is it possible to reply with a comment?
Yeah, you can even acknowledge alarms from from the log viewer. So if I set this guy off and I get this alarm, when you ack it, and even all the notifiers, you put in any comment that you want. And when you ack it, wait for it to update there, and you can see the comment that you typed in right there. And this would go out to everybody that was configured to see the alarm. So.
All right, just 1 second. I'm giving them some time to enter any other questions they want. Somebody said, so if I have a tank 500, a 500 filter would retrieve that in addition to any alarms that have a priority of 500? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so if you created so let's say you created a subscription that the only thing that it said was a specific priority, and I typed in 500, and I'm using this subscription, it's going to bring in every single alarm that is set to 500. So that is actually a pretty good way to determine whether you want WIN-911 to receive an alarm. Is if let's say you were using 1, every alarm you set to priority 1 means WIN-911 needs to know about it. And or you can even do something like everything that's priority 911, you can say WIN-911 needs to know about that. And so as you change your tag priority to 911, it automatically comes into WIN-911. So you can do specific priority, or you could do a range. If you wanted to say, give me all alarms within this range, then this subscription would bring in any alarm that falls in that particular range right there. And then of course you can combine these. It's not, you don't have to choose just one. So if I wanted to say I need it to be a tag with the word tank in it, so I've wrapped that with wildcard characters, and it needs to be a member of the freshwater group, I can do that, and it has to be within this priority range. So you can combine all 3 of these, and you can not only do that, but you can add more criteria under each guy. So if like each one of these were different, I could do that too. Your filter can be a lot bigger than what I was showing, but you can filter almost anything you want.
Yeah, and on any of those specific, the tag name, the group, the priority, if you want to add existing or new alarms to WIN-911 InTouch, and your filter from WIN-911 matches those new alarms, whether you make the priority 500 or you create a new tag name like freshwater tag, WIN-911 will automatically pick those up and bring those over to do alarm notification on.
Exactly. So to give you a little more detail on how we're even getting these alarms, with the alarm toolkit that we're using, we're essentially creating our own alarm summary. So with our own alarm summary, we're seeing exactly what this alarm summary sees. So once you create that alarm and that alarm can appear in an alarm summary screen, we can now get that alarm. So you don't have to import anything. And if it matches your filter, then great. So then you really don't have to change anything because it's already matching your filter. Because you just say when you build new tags, just say you need to create your alarms in a certain way so you know when WIN-911 will receive them. So that's what's great about the subscriptions is just build your tags, figure out how you want WIN-911 to receive your alarms. Is it the groups? Is it a priority? Is it something in the name? And then WIN-911 can automatically receive them. So you don't need to make a change.
Okay, so it looks like we have a couple more minutes for these last few questions. This comes from Tyler. Is the tag import function only available in WIN-911 Enterprise, or will it also be available in the version 7 product, which is comprised of Lite, Basic, and Pro?
Right. So all this stuff that we're seeing today is only in the Enterprise product. I will say that we are going to tier out the Enterprise product to be similar to what version 7 is, as far as like a Lite, a Basic, and a Pro. So we'll be doing that, so there will be a lower entry point in the Enterprise product, which will be out sometime next year. If the cost is a concern, then you can do that. But as far as the import development for version 7, no, that will not be available. But I will say this: we do have, outside of InTouch, we do have a new import utility for System Platform. So if you're using System Platform 2014 R2 and System Platform 2014 R2 Service Pack 1, we do have a new utility available on our website to help you import those attributes, but we don't have a new import utility for InTouch.
Okay. What is the development schedule for Enterprise to support System Platform?
Well, that is next. So that's the next data source that we'll be working on. We're currently working with some of the Wonderware guys to figure out the best way to create our direct connect. Our existing version 7 connection is using toolkits called NIMX Access, GR Access, which are great, and they do exactly what we want them to do, but we would like to also bring in the subscription functionality to System Platform. We're trying to find a way to do that. And if we can't, which is a possibility, then we will, we've got several enhancements for the MX Access, GR Access connection that we have planned. So again, that is the next data source we plan on working on.
Well, that looks like all your questions for today. Everyone that joined us today, we just want to let you know that we appreciate your time. And again, if you want to reach out to us, Steve, if you want to pull up that slide with our contact info, we can show
Sure.
Steve's going to pull up a slide with our emails, and again, you can call us direct. If this is something that you want to work on potentially upgrading from your version 7 Pro level, or maybe you have a new install, you can certainly work with your Wonderware distributors on that end. So again, thank you for your time, and Steve, thanks for your time and kind of going through all this today. I hope everyone has a nice day.
All right, thanks, Keith. And again, I'll mention if you are interested, please let us know. We can do a one-on-one kind of webinar to show how we can fit your needs for any projects you have coming up. So just stay in touch and let us know.
And today's session is being recorded, and I'll be sure to send the link out once we put it on YouTube for everyone to be able to go back and review if needed.
Cool.